I'm Amiri Samson from Section OL 22 and 38, Subject CPC LG1. Today, I am going to recite about the classification of penalties under Article 25 of RPC, the scale of principal and accessory penalties, duration of penalties, Article 27, successive service of sentences under Article 70 of the RPC, and meaning of complex crimes under Article 48. Classification of penalties under Article 25 of the RPC. Under Article 25 of the RPC, penalties are classified into number 1, principal, provided by law for a felony and which is imposed by the court expressly upon conviction, and number 2, accessory, deemed included in the imposition of the principal penalty. Under Article 25, the penalties which may impose and their different classes are these included in the following. Scale principal penalties: capital punishment, death, afflictive penalties, reclusion perpetua, reclusion temporal, perpetual or temporary absolute disqualification, perpetual or temporary special disqualification, and prisión mayor. Correctional penalties: prisión correccional, arresto mayor, suspension, destierro. Life penalties: arresto menor, public censure. Penalties common to their three preceding classes: fine and bond to keep the peace. Accessory penalties: principal or temporary absolute disqualification, perpetual or temporary special disqualification, suspension from public office, the right to vote and be voted for, the profession or calling, civil interdiction, indemnification, forfeiture or confiscation of instrument and proceeds of the offense, payment of cost. Duration of penalties by Article 27, reclusion perpetua, 20 years and 1 day to 40 years, reclusion temporal, 12 years and 1 day to 20 years, prisión mayor and temporary disqualification, 6 years and 1 day to 12 years, except when the penalty of disqualification is imposed as an accessory penalty, in which case its duration shall be that of the principal penalty. Prisión correccional, suspension, and destierro, 6 months and 1 day to 6 years, except when suspension is imposed as an accessory penalty, in which case its duration shall be that of the principal penalty. Arresto mayor, 1 month and 1 day to 6 months. Arresto menor, 1 day to 30 days. Bond to keep peace: the bond shall be required to cover such period of time as the court may determine, as amended by Section 21 Republic Act No. 7659. Reclusion perpetua is an indivisible penalty. Despite its defined duration, reclusion perpetua is still to be classified as an indivisible penalty. Destierro: it is a punishment whereby the convict is banished to a certain place and is prohibited from entering or coming near the place designated in the sentence not less 25 km, but cannot extend beyond 250 km. If the convict should enter the prohibited place designated in the sentence, he commits the crime of evasion of sentence. Destierro is imposed when the following: Number 1, serious physical injuries or death under exceptional circumstances. Article 247. 2. In case of failure to give bond for good behavior. Article 284. 3. As a penalty for the concubine in concubinage. Article 334. And number 4. In cases where after reducing the penalty by 1 or more degrees, destierro is the proper penalty. Successive service of sentences. Under Article 70 of the RPC, the penalties in the order of severity and for the purpose of successive service of sentences have the following scale. Number 1, death. RA number 9346, signed into law on June 24, 2006, prohibited the imposition of the death penalty. 2. Reclusion in perpetua. 3. Reclusion temporal. 4. Prisión mayor. 5. Prisión correccional. 6. Arresto mayor. 7. Arresto menor. 8. Destierro. 9. Perpetual absolutory disqualification. 10. Temporary absolute disqualification. 11. Suspension from public office. The right to vote and be voted for. The right to follow profession or calling, and 12. Public censure. The threefold rule. Notwithstanding the provisions of Article 70, the maximum duration of the convict sentence shall not be more than the threefold the length of the time corresponding the most severe of the penalties imposed. Such maximum period shall in no case exceed 40 years. Article 70 of RPC. Complex crimes, compound crime, and complex crime proper. When a single act constitutes 2 or more grave or less grave felonies, or when an offense is a necessary means for committing the other, the penalty for the most serious crime shall be imposed to be applied in its maximum period. Article 48 RPC. Article 48 speaks of 2 types of complex crimes. Number 1, when a single act constitutes 2 or more grave or less grave felonies, compound crime or delito compuesto. And number 2, when an offense is a necessary means of committing the other, complex crime proper or delito complejo. Article 48 is not applicable in case of special complex crimes specifically provided for in the RPC, like robbery with homicide or rape or with arson. It applies only when no specific penalty is stated in the law. In complex crime, although 2 or more crimes are actually committed, they constitute only one more crime in the eyes of the law. The offender has only one criminal intent. Hence, there is only one penalty imposed. Plurality crimes consist of the successive execution by the same individual of different criminal acts upon any of which no conviction has yet been declared. 2. Kinds of plurality of crimes. Number 1, formal or ideal, and number 2, real or material. In formal or ideal plurality of crimes, there is but one criminal liability. On the other hand, in real or material plurality of crimes, there are different crimes in law and in the conscience of the offender. Thank you.